Hello everyone. So, as we were filming the last episode, the news broke that 3 women were being arrested for organising a protest in Singapore. As we all know, under the Public Order Act 2009, any public assembly or procession for a political purpose without a permit is illegal, and a single person can be considered an assembly or procession. Basically, in Singapore, if you leave your home and the authorities decide it was for a political purpose, you're breaking the law, which is nonsense, of course. So naturally, when 70 people wrote letters to the Prime Minister urging him to end ties with Israel and got together to walk to the Istana to deliver the letters, the powers that be decided that yes, it was a public procession for a political purpose. But I mean, what else were these people supposed to do? Registered mail is expensive. The letters aren't going to walk themselves. But this incident also made me wonder, how on earth are we supposed to protest anything if simply appearing in public is illegal? Then, this TikTok came out. But under the law, that's illegal. It's a procession proceeding by a common route, the purpose of which was to demonstrate support for the PAP candidates for Sengkang and to publicise their campaign. So, a procession is okay if you're marching along in sync to catchy music? In which case... That's how we protest in Singapore. And this is the show with PJ Thum. Hello, this week's main story, an update on POFMA. We've covered this twice before and also gotten POFMA multiple times back in 2020. For those of you just joining us, let's recap this flaming dumpster fire of a law. First, Minister of Law and Home Affairs K. Shanmugam, seen here calmly watching as a school bus full of students teeters on the edge of a cliff, told us that POFMA would be about facts. But POFMA ended up being overwhelmingly used against the interpretations of facts. The PAP government asserted that as long as one possible interpretation of facts is false, the statement as a whole is false.
You know, we are just dealing with a very basic thing. Is something true, something not true? Is the color of this table white or is it black? It's factual. We are not dealing with opinions here. Opinions people can have, but you know, we are dealing with facts.
Ironic that Shan's statement explaining how the law would deal with falsehoods is itself a falsehood. Second, Ong Ye Kung told us POFMA would be used only when there was risk of public harm, but again, POFMAs have been issued against statements where there was no genuine risk of public harm.
First, let me reiterate the 2 gates through which any falsehood must pass before it can be corrected or removed by this bill. 1, what is put up online must be a statement of fact that is false. 2, it must cause public harm.
Third, the PAP government also stated that the law does not criminalize dissent and does not target Singaporean critics. But as I noted in last season of the show, there has been a really egregious double standard in how it has been used in practice, and this observation was not challenged by POFMA either. For example, when Channel News Asia recently got a fact wrong in an article about housing policy, the HDB simply quietly told it, "Hey, you're wrong," and CNA published a correction. But when the Online Citizen or Leong Si Hien got facts on Singapore's housing policy wrong, the HDB didn't engage them. They just got slapped with a POFMA. Why does the government-controlled CNA get to quietly publish a correction while TOC or Leong or indeed anyone else immediately get hit with a POFMA? So, to recap, the law was sold to us as A, covering only facts, B, that would cause public harm, and C, would not be used to target criticism, but instead we get a law that A, covers interpretations, B, is used against statements that pose no threat of public harm, and C, has been used chiefly against Singaporean critics. So here we are, 4 years since my last episode on POFMA, and what else have we learned? Well, things have only gotten more ridiculous. First, since the end of the pandemic, the use of POFMA has been almost entirely against independent media and political opponents of the PAP government. In the last 2 years, there have been over 40 POFMAs, and almost all of them have been against opposition politicians, activists, and government critics. The champion is Kenneth Jayaratnam, who, as of the recording of this video, has been POFMA'd at least 9 different times in the last 2 years, and also has had his blog made a declared online location. Meanwhile, egregious falsehoods like this one on Facebook from a pro-PAP page, which painted the recent Aljunied Hougang Town Council case settlement as between the Workers' Party itself, own self settle own self. That's false, but nothing from our friends at the POFMA office. Second, a new threshold for silliness was reached when the online media publication Jom was POFMA'd for an article they published on 7th of July 2023. There were 3 POFMAs, but I just want to focus on the third one here. Jom was trying to understand the geo-blocking of an Instagram post by Charles Yeo, a former opposition politician and former chairman of the Reform Party, in which he alludes to crony capitalism in Singapore involving Minister K. Shanmugam, the Raja of Rideout Road, and his son. Instagram apparently prevented the post from being accessible in Singapore, and its notice on the post said it, quote, complied with a legal request to restrict this content, unquote. Okay, so we know it's a fact that Instagram was forced to restrict the content. Its owner, Meta, confirmed this in response to media queries. The interesting thing is we don't know who ordered it. Naturally, people speculated that it was Shanmugam who ordered the block. After all, Shanmugam loves to use the law against his opponents. He will never hesitate to reach into his legal briefs and pull out his sub-penis to wave threateningly at you. It's a sheaf of paper, guys. The Online Citizen naturally noted how strange it was that Shan was not responding to allegations when he usually is so quick to respond. So it was in this context that Jom asked, did Instagram accede to a censorship request by the Raja? And then wrote, we don't know if this request came from Shanmugam. What we do know is that Meta sometimes works hand in glove with autocratic governments in the region. And then later, there's no evidence that Meta has any similar arrangement with Singapore's ruling People's Action Party, whose leaders are regularly criticized on Facebook and Instagram. Okay, here's where it gets crazy. Josephine Teo then POFMA's Jom for the above statement, and the government summarizes Jom's position in this way, quote, the article also makes the statement that the government caused Instagram to geo-block a post by Charles Yeo. I mean, are you delulu? First of all, Josephine Teo is Minister for Communications? I mean, this is a minister who notoriously didn't understand how people communicate.
I have not come across one single migrant worker himself that has demanded an apology.
I'm sure they were saying things, ma'am, but I don't know if you were hearing them. Second, okay, nobody is saying that the government issued any directions or requests on this matter to Meta. John clearly said, we don't know if this request came from Shanmugam, and they said there's no evidence that Meta has any similar arrangement with the PAP government. How on earth is we don't know and there's no evidence construed as yes, they did? Third, in their statement to John, Meta specifically said they complied with a court order and therefore the order came from the courts, not the government. Anyone could have applied for the court order. So what we want to know is, who did it? Okay, so John appealed. Naturally, Josephine Teo turned down the appeal, so it went to the courts. Our judges are intelligent and well-trained. Surely they will clear this up. Well, Judge Valeria Thien did not clear it up at all. You can read what she wrote, link in the description below. But she wrote, with the line, we don't know if this request came from Shanmugam, the article is implying it was indeed Minister Shanmugam, a member of the government, who caused Instagram to geo-block Charles Yeo's post. She also wrote, in my view, what the article does by a series of speculative associations is set out a case that the government caused Instagram to geo-block Charles Yeo's post. Again, while this is not spelled out literally, the whole import of the article leads to an assertion that the Singapore government asked Instagram to geo-block the Charles Yeo post in Singapore. So, legally in Singapore, repeatedly saying something is not true or that you don't know something is the same as setting out a case that it is true. Saying there's no evidence for something is a speculative assertion that implies the opposite. I mean, well, the Singapore government is so full of government scholars, so they know how to properly write things. So let's look at how the Singapore government talked about a sensitive and controversial issue like Rideout Road and learn how to properly write about these things. Here's the statement from the Prime Minister's office on the rental of state properties at Rideout Road by Minister K. Shanmugam and Minister Vivian Balakrishnan on 28 June 2023. The statement says, quote, there was no abuse of power or conflict of interest resulting in the ministers gaining any unfair advantages or privileges. Furthermore, the process of renting out the two properties did not deviate from the prevailing SLA guidelines and approaches. It continues, the CPIB report found no evidence of corruption or criminal wrongdoing by Ministers Shanmugam and Balakrishnan. CPIB found no preferential treatment given to the ministers and their spouses and no disclosure of privileged information in the process of the rental transactions. There was no evidence to suggest any abuse of position by the ministers for personal gain, unquote. I see. So through a series of speculative associations, the PMO is setting out a case that all those things are actually true. And while it is not spelled out literally, the full import of this article is the opposite of what it is actually saying. It was right there in front of us the whole time. Judge Thien has exposed the truth. I salute you, Judge Thien. So, what now for POFMA? Being POFMA has become a badge of honor among independent media and political activists. But you may have noticed the absence of a certain movement for democracy in Southeast Asia in recent POFMAs. That's right, I'm ashamed to say New Narrative has not been POFMA since 2020. And I want to apologize to our loyal members for not being POFMA. We will do better. Singaporeans love rankings. So today, we are unveiling the POFMA League table to show who is winning at being POFMA. Our league table looks at unique POFMAs and the number of false statements in each POFMA. In the 2024 calendar year, POFMA correction directions have been issued against 6 people or organizations. For the purposes of this league table, we are only counting if you are the person who actually made the false statement. So, unfortunately, while TOC or Gutsy Asia has also been POFMA, it was only for reporting the statements that the others made. So sorry TOC, we're not going to count you here. So currently, Kenneth Jayaratnam is leading the 2024 season race with 3 POFMAs totaling 5 false statements, while Leong Man Wai is second with 1 POFMA, but it has a whopping 4 false statements. As of the 2024 season, the once proud new narrative have nothing. We're the Manchester United of the league, once great, but now we suck. But like Manchester United this season, we are going to soar back up the league, and we're going to do this with our new initiative, the People's Office for More Accurate Education, or POFMAD. You see, what we realize is that POFMA is actually a free public fact-checking service for Singaporeans. If you want to know something about Singapore and the PAP government won't tell you, all you have to do is state your theory as a fact and the government will fact-check it for you. Allow us to demonstrate. Remember in 2020, a Taiwanese news outlet reported that Ho Ching's salary that year as CEO of Temasek was around 100 million Singapore dollars? The Online Citizen reported this and they got POFMA'd. Then Finance Minister Heng Swee Keat said this was untrue. TOC protested, saying their report was not that Ho Ching's salary was around $100 million. Their report was that a Taiwanese news outlet said that Ho Ching's salary that year was around 100 million Sing dollars, which is true. They also pointed out that a POFMA was not issued against the Taiwanese news outlet, which is unfair. But this was to no avail. But then the PAP government refused to tell us what Ho Ching's salary actually was. So we know that it's false that the annual salary of Temasek CEO Ms. Ho Ching is about 2.1 billion Taiwanese dollars, about 100 million Singapore dollars, or 99 million Sing dollars a year. But is it more? Is it less? We don't know. All Temasek said was, quote, Ho Ching's annual compensation is neither the highest within Temasek, nor is she among the top 5 highest paid executives in Temasek, unquote. Okay, so we do know she has a salary, and now we have a convenient free public fact-checking service which can tell us approximately what her salary is. All we need to do is to make a series of statements that cover all the possible bases and ask the PAP government to POFMA the statements which are false. Okay, so here we go. Feel free to skip forward through this next bit. It will take a while. The following are all statements of fact. It is a fact that Ho Ching was paid an annual salary in 2020 as Temasek Holdings CEO. It was a fact that in 2020, the annual salary of Temasek CEO Ho Ching was more than 0 Singapore dollars a year. It is a fact that in 2020, the annual salary of Temasek CEO Ho Ching was more than 500,000 Singapore dollars a year. It is a fact that in 2020, the annual salary of Temasek CEO Ho Ching was more than 1 million Singapore dollars a year. It is a fact that in 2020, the annual salary of Temasek CEO Ho Ching was more than 5 million Singapore dollars a year. It is a fact that in 2020, the annual salary of Temasek CEO Ho Ching was more than 10 million Singapore dollars a year. It is a fact that in 2020, the annual salary of Temasek CEO Ho Ching was more than 20 million Singapore dollars a year. It is a fact that in 2020, the annual salary of Temasek CEO Ho Ching was more than 30 million Singapore dollars a year. It is a fact that in 2020, the annual salary of Temasek CEO Ho Ching was more than 40 million Singapore dollars a year. It is a fact that in 2020, the annual salary of Temasek CEO Ho Ching was more than 50 million Singapore dollars a year. It is a fact that in 2020, the annual salary of Temasek CEO Ho Ching was more than 60 million Singapore dollars a year. It is a fact that in 2020, the annual salary of Temasek CEO Ho Ching was more than 70 million Singapore dollars a year. It is a fact that in 2020, the annual salary of Temasek CEO Ho Ching was more than 80 million Singapore dollars a year. It is a fact that in 2020, the annual salary of Temasek CEO Ho Ching was more than 90 million Singapore dollars a year. It is a fact that in 2020, the annual salary of Temasek CEO Ho Ching was more than 100 million Singapore dollars a year. Okay, so Finance Minister Lawrence Wong, please POFMA the false statements and leave us with only true statements. If Wong doesn't POFMA anything, then we know that all the statements are true and her salary was more than 100 million Singapore dollars a year. We'll try to do this every week, so please send in your suggestions for statements which the government can POFMA so that we can learn the truth. Alright, that's our show this week. See you next time. Hello everyone, Grouchy the Malayan Sun Bear here with a big thank you to all our members who've supported us so loyally all these years. The work we do takes up so much time and money, and we're a very small team working tirelessly across Southeast Asia, and we're so grateful for your support. New New Narrative is a movement to democratize democracy in Southeast Asia, and it's supported by its members, people like you. So we need your help to keep fighting. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to see more, please do join New Narrative as a member or donate to New Narrative. If you become a member, you gain access to our website with all our wonderful articles and videos and comics and podcasts. And you can also interact with other like-minded people who are fighting for a better Southeast Asia, including all our team members, and have wonderful conversations about important issues in a constructive way. So please consider becoming a member. It's as low as $5 a month, or donate to New Narrative at newnarrative.com/donate. Please like and subscribe to this video, and please share. Thank you very much.